You wake up before the alarm even has a chance to ring. For a moment, everything is quiet. Then your mind switches on, and the same thoughts rush in yet again. The bill that is due very soon, the card that is almost at its limit. The feeling that you have been working for so many years, and still money feels tight and fragile. You stare at the ceiling, and you can feel this heavy question in your chest. Is this really how it is going to be for the rest of my life? Not in a dramatic movie way, in a very simple, real way. You think about your family and the people you love. You think about the life you once imagined you would have by now, and you can feel the distance between that picture and your current reality. You are not lazy. You are not careless. You have survived many storms already. You have learned to keep going when things are hard. But deep down, you know that surviving and actually feeling financially free are not the same thing. You are tired of pretending that they are. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about money in a way that is honest, gentle, and very real. No drama, no empty hype, no magical promise that everything will change overnight. Just a clear conversation between adults who have lived long enough to know that quick fixes do not last. If you are in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or beyond, you already carry a long story around money. Maybe you were told to never talk about it. Maybe you were told that wanting more is selfish. Maybe you were praised for always putting others first. And now you find it almost impossible to invest in yourself without guilt. This morning, I want you to imagine something different. Imagine that your financial life is a room that has been dim for a long time. The furniture is familiar. You can find your way around it with your eyes half closed. You know where the stress usually sits and where the worry usually sleeps. Now imagine that instead of rearranging the same pieces again and again, you slowly reach over and open the curtains. The light does not change the room in 1 second, but suddenly you can see more clearly. You can see what truly matters and what no longer belongs. You can see small actions that were always there yet somehow invisible in the dark. You start to feel a new thought rising inside. Maybe it is not too late. Maybe I can still change this story. In this introduction together, we will simply name what has been happening in that room. We will talk about the quiet shame, the hidden fear, the unspoken anger, the silent exhaustion. And then we will take the very first step toward a new mindset about money. Not a mindset of fantasy, but a mindset of clarity, courage, and responsibility. Because this is serious, let me pause. Before the day rushes in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, only if you truly enjoy what I am doing here. And in the comments, write your location, your time zone, and the time right now, this morning. Now, open the curtains and let the light in, pour a glass of water, maybe brew a coffee or tea, set your phone to Do Not Disturb, and take one deep breath. Let's begin our journey this morning. Chapter 1. From Surviving to Questioning Wealth. You have come too far to stay stuck here. There is a special kind of tired that does not live in your muscles, it lives in your chest. You know this tiredness when you wake up and the day has not even started yet. But your mind is already running through payments and promises and quiet fears. You sit on the edge of the bed, and there is a moment where you do not reach for your phone and you do not move toward the shower. You just sit with that heavy sense that something about your financial life is not matching the person you know you truly are. Maybe you have been working for many years. You have shown up in offices and shops and factories and online spaces. You have done what needed to be done. People around you might even describe you as reliable and responsible. Yet when you look at your bank account and your future plans, you feel a gap between effort and outcome that you cannot explain with simple words. There is a picture of life that you once carried. Perhaps it was a home that feels calm and safe. Perhaps it was freedom to take a break when you need it without panic. Perhaps it was the ability to help your children or your parents without having to calculate every small amount. That picture has not completely disappeared, but it often feels far away and a little blurry now. If you are honest, you may also feel a quiet embarrassment about money, not the loud kind that people shout about. A private kind that shows up when you avoid looking at statements or when you change the subject as soon as finances come up in conversation. There is a part of you that thinks you should have it more together by this stage of life. And that thought can cut deep. I want to say this clearly: you are not broken for feeling this way. Many adults who look calm on the outside carry the same knot of worry on the inside. They have learned how to function while holding that knot, to go to work, to smile for the family photo, to sign forms and pay dues, but functioning and flourishing are not the same thing. When you slow down and listen under the noise, you might notice old messages still echoing in your mind. Do not talk about money. Do not want too much. Do not become greedy. Be grateful for what you have, and do not ask for more. Those messages might have been shared with good intentions, yet they can twist into something heavy over time. They can make you feel guilty for even wanting a better financial life. You may also carry memories of stress around money from childhood, raised voices over unpaid bills, silent tension at the dinner table, big decisions made from a place of fear, not from a place of calm planning. Without realizing it, you may have decided that money always brings conflict, or that peace and prosperity cannot live in the same house. So you choose survival. You learn to make things work with what you have. You become good at stretching and adjusting and finding a way. In many ways, that is a strength. It proves your resilience and your creativity. But deep down, you sense that you were not born only to dodge disasters and patch holes forever. Surviving is getting through the month. Surviving is making the minimum payment and pushing the worry a few weeks ahead. Surviving is telling yourself you will think about your future later when things calm down. We both know that later rarely arrives on its own. There comes a moment for many people somewhere between early adulthood and later years where a different question rises. Not the usual question of how to pay the next bill, a deeper question. What if my relationship with money does not have to feel like this for the rest of my life? That question can feel dangerous and hopeful at the same time. Dangerous because it threatens the story you have repeated to yourself for a long time. Maybe the story is that this is simply your fate, or that people like you never really get ahead, or that wanting more will make you a worse person. Hopeful because if the story is not fixed, then something can change. And if something can change, then the future is not a straight line from the past. This chapter is not here to judge the choices that brought you to this moment. Every decision you made was influenced by the information and energy and support you had at the time. Instead, this chapter is an invitation to gently lay your financial life on the table in front of you and look at it without turning away. You might notice that some of your habits are not the real problem, Working hard is not the problem. Caring for others is not the problem. Being generous is not the problem. The real problem is often that you have never been given a safe space to think clearly about money, without shame and without fear. So for now, we are simply creating that space. Imagine again that dim room from the introduction, the room that represents your financial world. Up to now, you may have been walking around it in near darkness, bumping into the same corners over and over. When you slowly open the curtains, you are not attacking yourself. You are allowing light to fall on what has always been there. You may see patterns and emotions that surprise you. Jealousy when someone else seems to move ahead faster. Resentment when you feel that your loyalty has not been rewarded. Blame toward circumstances or toward your younger self. Behind all of these is usually one unspoken fear. The fear that there is simply not enough and that you will always be behind. Here is the turning point of this first chapter. Before we talk about strategy or skills, we must question the belief that sits at the bottom of many financial struggles. The belief that money is always scarce and that your only role is to chase it or defend against it. If that belief remains untouched, then no method will feel safe or stable. For today, your action does not need to be huge. It can be as simple as noticing your first money thought tomorrow morning. When it appears, do not fight it and do not follow it into a spiral. Just notice it and ask yourself, is this thought coming from fear or from possibility? You do not have to force an answer. The simple act of asking begins to open a new path. In the next chapter, we will start to gently challenge this idea of permanent scarcity. We will explore a different way of seeing money not as a fixed pile that others have taken from you, but as a flow that can move towards you when you step into new kinds of value. For now, let this first question settle in your heart. What if the way you see money is allowed to change? And if it is allowed to change, what might become possible in the room of your financial life? Chapter 2. Rule 1. Money as an infinite flow. Not a fixed pie. Learning to see what has always been moving around you. There is a belief that sits deep inside many people even if they never say it out loud. The belief that money is like a single pie placed in the middle of the world. Some people grabbed large slices early. Some people were left with crumbs. And if you want more for yourself, it must mean that someone else gets less. This belief makes every financial choice feel heavy. If you ask for a raise, you feel afraid that you are taking from the company or from your coworkers. If you raise your prices, you feel as if you are unfair to the people you serve. If you even think about wealth, you feel you must soften it with a joke or a nervous smile. Because in your mind, abundance and kindness cannot live together. Yet if you step back and look at the world with honest eyes, you begin to notice something different. You see new businesses opening in places that once were empty. You see people turning skills into services that did not exist when you were younger. You see technology creating whole new fields where there was nothing before. Money keeps moving, changing hands, shifting shapes, flowing through systems and screens and stores. It is not one pie sitting on one table. It is more like a vast network of rivers. Sometimes the river flows fast and wide. Sometimes it slows and pools. Sometimes it changes course. New streams appear where there was only dry ground before. When you hold tightly to the fixed pie story, your nervous system stays on alert. Every success that belongs to someone else feels like proof that your own chances are shrinking. You look at a person who seems to be doing well, and a sharp thought cuts through. That must be nice for them. Underneath that thought is a quiet second line. There is less left for me now. This way of thinking does not make you a bad person. It makes you human. The brain is built to scan for threats and to notice what might run out. But when this pattern runs unchecked, it blinds you to opportunity. You see doors closing and almost never see new ones being built. Rule 1 of a new money mindset is to gently retire the fixed pie story, not through blind optimism, not through repeating empty lines about abundance, but by training your eyes to notice the constant creation of value happening around you. Think of the last time you paid for something that did not exist in your childhood. Maybe a digital service that helps you stay organized. Maybe an online course that opened a new path. Maybe a simple app that saves you time when you paid for it. You did not feel that someone took from you. You saw the benefit and you chose to exchange money for that benefit. In that moment, new value was created and you were part of that flow. The person or team who built that product did not sit and wait for a slice of a fixed pie. They looked for a problem. They looked for a need. They brought a solution into the world. Money moved toward that. Now imagine this on a wider scale. New solutions appear in health communication, education, entertainment, and daily living. Every time a real problem is solved in a way that people appreciate, money flows. The river does not ask whether there is enough water to go around. It simply moves where channels have been dug. This is where your own story begins to bend. If money moves where value is created, then your task is not to fight over crumbs. Your task is to learn how to notice unmet needs, to develop skills that can meet those needs, to step into the flow as a contributor, rather than only as a defender. This can feel strange at first if you have spent many years in survival mode. When life has trained you to hold on to every coin, it feels risky to lift your eyes and ask, where could I create value in a deeper way? Yet that question is the seed of a different future. A flow mindset does not ignore hardship. There are people who have been blocked from opportunity. There are systems that are unfair. There are seasons where the river seems far away from your door. We do not pretend that these realities do not exist. What we do instead is refuse to make them the entire truth. In every generation, there are people who slowly step from the edge of scarcity into a more creative role. They do not wait to be handed a larger slice. They build something worth serving. They speak up for what they can offer. They become a bridge through which money can move in a clean and honest way inside you. There might be a voice that whispers, I am not that kind of person. I am not an inventor or a founder. I am just someone trying to get by. I want you to hear another possibility. You do not have to become a giant figure to join the flow. You only need to become a little more awake to the value you already bring and the value you could grow. It might be the way you solve problems at work, the way you communicate with people, the way you organize chaos or bring calm to difficult situations. These are not small things. They are hints of where your river channel might be dug deeper. When you begin to see money as a flow, you also start to feel different about people who have more than you. Instead of only seeing threat, you can become curious. What did they build? What problems do they solve? What patterns of thinking help them step into that flow? You no longer need to worship them or hate them. You can simply study the principles and adapt what fits your life and your values. From this place, jealousy loses some of its power and is slowly replaced by inspiration and learning. For now, your practical action can be very simple. Over the next day, notice 3 moments where money moves in front of your eyes. It might be a delivery driver dropping off a package, a neighbor paying for home repairs, a small business processing an order. Instead of seeing only the transfer of money, look for the value behind it. What problem was solved? What need was met? Write down what you see in your own words. This is how you start teaching your mind that money is moving all the time, that it is not a frozen picture, but a living system. And if it is moving, then there is a way for you to step closer to that movement. In the next chapter, we will explore what happens when you stop thinking only in terms of your single pair of hands. We will look at the difference between working harder in the same small space and learning to build something that can serve many people at once. For now, let this new idea gently settle. Money is not only something you chase or hide from. It is a flow that responds to value, and you are capable of growing the value you bring to the world. Chapter 3. From one-to-one effort to scaled impact. Stepping beyond the limits of your own 2 hands. There is a certain kind of pride that comes from doing everything yourself. You show up, you work hard, you answer every message and fix every problem. People know that if they ask you for help, you will find a way. For many years, this way of living can feel like the only honest path. You might be the person who stays late to finish what others started. You might be the one who says yes to extra tasks at work because you know they will be done properly if they are in your hands. You might be the friend or family member who is always there when something breaks or someone is in trouble. Your identity quietly attaches itself to the idea that you are the one who carries things. There is nothing wrong with being responsible and dependable. Those qualities are beautiful. But there is a hidden cost when your whole approach to money and impact depends on your single pair of hands and your limited hours in a day. You eventually hit an invisible ceiling. The ceiling shows up in small ways at first. You feel exhausted more often. You start to notice that no matter how many hours you give your income and your sense of impact do not move very much. You tell yourself that you just need to push a little harder. Yet each time you push, you end up at the same wall. This is the nature of pure one-to-one effort. You trade time for money. You trade energy for results. Every step forward requires another piece of you. In the early stages of life and work, this is normal and even necessary. You learn skills, you build experience, you prove to yourself that you can show up and follow through. However, if you stay in this mode forever, you lock yourself into a very narrow lane. Your income is limited by your direct hours. Your impact is limited by the number of people you can personally touch. Your sense of freedom is limited by the constant feeling that if you stop, everything will fall apart. To step beyond this pattern, you do not need to throw away your work ethic. You need to upgrade the way that your effort is multiplied. This is where the idea of scale begins. Imagine that your work life is a small workshop. Inside that workshop is a single, sturdy table. You stand at that table, and you create value with your hands and your mind. You handle each item from start to finish. The people who receive your work are grateful. But there is a line forming outside the door, and you can only serve a few people at a time. Scaling does not mean building a factory overnight. It means slowly changing what happens in that workshop. Instead of you being the only one at the table, you begin to design tools and simple systems that help you repeat what works without starting from zero each time. You write down your process. You create templates. You design checklists or simple guides. You might teach someone else part of what you do. You might turn what you go into a form that can be shared many times. In other words, you stop relying only on your raw effort and start building structures that support and extend that effort. You are no longer just the worker in the workshop. You are becoming the builder of the workshop itself. This same idea applies even if you are an employee and not a business owner. You can ask questions like, how can I make my work easier to repeat? How can I create something that continues to deliver value even when I am not physically present? How can I design solutions instead of only reacting to problems? Maybe you create a training guide for new team members so that you are not the only person who knows how to do a task. Maybe you design a clear system for tracking important information so that you are not the only one holding it in your head. Maybe you turn a skill you use every day into a small workshop or digital product outside your job. At first, these steps might not bring more money right away, but they begin to shift your position in the flow of value. You are no longer only a pair of hands. You are becoming a person who builds methods and assets over time. People are willing to pay more for that kind of contribution because it creates lasting results. There is also an emotional shift that needs to happen. If you have spent many years proving your worth by working harder than everyone around you, it can feel wrong to step back and design instead of doing. Part of you may feel guilty when you are thinking instead of visibly sweating. You may worry that others will see you as lazy if you are not always busy. The truth is that designing better ways of working is one of the most generous things you can do. When you create systems, you reduce confusion for everyone. When you teach what you know, you free others from repeating your old mistakes. When you package your knowledge, you allow people to benefit from it, even if they never meet you in person. This is what scaled impact really means. You are still helping real human beings, but you are not limited to the few who can reach you directly. Your effort is multiplied through structure. Your time is multiplied through tools. And teaching your income now has room to grow because you are solving problems at a deeper level. Of course, this path is not without risk. There will be moments where you try to create something and it does not work. You might design a new way of doing things, and nobody notices. At first, you might create a simple product or service, and the first attempt does not sell. In these moments, it is tempting to retreat to the comfort of pure, one-to-one effort, where at least you know how to stay busy. But if you want your financial life to truly transform, you will need to walk through a season of experimentation. This is not failure. This is how every new bridge is built, piece by piece, test by test, revision by revision. Each attempt teaches you something about what people need and how you can serve them more effectively. For now, you do not need to map your entire future in one night. Your micro-action for this chapter can be simple. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself this question in writing. Where am I still relying only on my own hands? And where could I start building something that lasts beyond my direct effort? Let your mind scan through your work, your relationships, your skills, your daily habits. Perhaps there is one task you repeat constantly that could be turned into a simple guide. Perhaps there is one problem you are good at solving that could be recorded and shared more widely. Perhaps there is one part of your story that others keep asking about that could become the seed of a new offering. Write down at least one idea, no matter how small it seems. This is the first brick in a new structure. In the next chapter, we will look at another barrier that often rises as soon as you consider building and growing. The fear of investing in yourself and in the tools that would make this scaling possible. Before we step into that fear, take a breath and recognize this truth. You have already proven that you can survive through effort alone. Now you are beginning to learn how to turn that effort into something that can grow beyond the limits of your own two hands. Chapter 4. Rule 2. Releasing the fear of spending. On yourself. There is a moment that repeats itself in many lives. You discover something that could genuinely help you grow. It might be a course that speaks directly to a struggle you have carried for years. It might be a simple tool that would save you time and stress every day. It might be a mentoring experience that feels like the missing piece in your journey. For a brief heartbeat, you feel a clear yes. You can almost see the future version of you who has learned these skills and stepped into a new level of confidence. Then another voice appears in your mind. It starts with a quiet question. Are you sure? Can you really afford this? What if you waste the money? What will other people think? That voice can be so loud that the original yes disappears. You close the page. You put the book back. You walk away from the opportunity and tell yourself you will think about it later. Later rarely comes. This pattern is not about being careful with money. It is something deeper. It is about your relationship with yourself. On the surface, you are deciding whether or not to make a purchase. Underneath you are deciding whether or not you trust yourself to make good use of what you buy. Many of us were taught to be proud of self-denial. We were praised for needing very little. We were told that real adults sacrifice their needs for the people around them. Over time, this can twist into a belief that spending on yourself is selfish or unworthy. You might feel fine buying gifts for others, yet feel a heavy knot in your stomach when you consider investing in your own growth. There is also the fear of judgment. You may worry that a partner, a friend, or a colleague will think you are being unrealistic if you spend money on something that does not show an immediate result. You imagine conversations where you have to justify every decision. The easiest way to avoid this discomfort is to simply say no to yourself before anyone else has the chance to question you. Rule 2 invites you to gently step into a new way of seeing these moments. Instead of asking only how much something costs in dollars, you begin to ask what it might cost you in years if you never learn what it offers. You begin to look at the price of staying stuck and repeating the same patterns over and over. To make this more concrete, let us walk through a simple reflection exercise. You can do this on paper later, but for now, imagine it in your mind. First, imagine a list of things that could genuinely help you grow in the next chapter of your life. Not luxury for the sake of status, not objects that will gather dust. Experiences, tools, or teachings that would directly support your skills, your health, your peace, or your ability to create value. Second, under each item, imagine writing down your honest fears about spending on it. Thoughts like, what if I do not follow through? Or what if this makes someone close to me upset? Or what if I am not worth this kind of investment? Do not judge these thoughts. Just let them appear. Third, under that, imagine writing a new kind of sentence for each item. A sentence that assumes you will show up fully, that you will take responsibility, that you will squeeze the value out of this investment. A sentence that sounds like I am committed to making this worthwhile, or this will help me grow into the person I am becoming. This simple shift is calcing powerful. You are not moving from fear to fantasy. You are moving from fear to ownership. You are saying to yourself, I choose this, and I choose to meet it with my full effort. Of course, this does not mean that every offer or product deserves your money. Discernment is still important. There will always be people selling empty promises. There will always be noise. Your task is not to say yes to everything. Your task is to learn how to say a strong, clear yes when something truly aligns with your needs and values. One helpful question is this: if this investment worked exactly as it is meant to work, what would change in my life within the next season? Would I gain skills that open new doors? Would I save enough time and energy to focus on higher value work? Would my confidence and clarity grow in a way that affects every decision I make? Another helpful question is this: if I say no to this out of fear, will I still be in the exact same place 1 year from now? You are not predicting the future. You are simply feeling the weight of staying where you are. There is also a deeper truth to face. When you refuse to invest in your own growth, you send a quiet message to yourself. The message is, I do not trust you. I do not believe you will follow through. I do not think you are worth the risk. Over time, this message becomes a story, and that story shapes your choices in many areas far beyond money. When you begin to invest in yourself with care and intention, you start sending a different message. You say, I believe that you can grow. I believe that you can use what you are given. I believe that your future is worth building on purpose. This inner vote of confidence can be more valuable than the course, the tool, or the program itself. There will still be moments of doubt even when you decide to say yes. You may experience a wave of regret the moment after you confirm a purchase. This is natural. Instead of letting that feeling drown you, you can take it as a signal to deepen your commitment. You can say to yourself, I feel afraid, and that is fine now. Let me make a plan to use this fully. This might mean setting specific times in your week to study and practice. It might mean telling a trusted friend about your decision so that you feel supported. It might mean writing down exactly what you hope to gain so that you can measure progress and stay engaged. The goal is not perfect confidence. The goal is movement. Each time you choose to support your own growth, you weaken the old pattern a little more. For your small action from this chapter, choose one area of your life where you have hesitated to invest in yourself. It might be learning a skill, improving your health, creating a more supportive workspace, or getting guidance in a confusing season. Write a simple sentence that describes what you know would help you even if you are not ready to buy it today. Then write one fear sentence and one commitment sentence about that same thing. Notice how it feels in your body when you read the fear sentence. Then notice how it feels when you read the commitment sentence. You are training yourself to recognize the difference between the voice that keeps you small and the voice that invites you to grow. In the next chapter, we will turn our attention to the subject at the center of these choices. We will begin to learn the language of money itself, so that your decisions are not guided only by emotion or old stories. You will see that money can be understood step by step, and that the mystery can slowly turn into clarity. For now, remember this simple truth. You are allowed to invest in the person you are becoming. Every thoughtful yes to your own growth is a quiet step out of survival and into a more powerful partnership with your financial life. Chapter 5. Rule 3. Learning the language of money. Turning on the light. In a room that once felt dark. For many people, money feels like a language they were never taught to read. They can work hard, earn a paycheck, pay their bills, and still feel lost whenever the conversation turns to savings, investments, interest, or inflation. Their heart beats a little faster when they see long documents full of unfamiliar words. They nod politely when others talk about financial topics, while silently hoping the discussion moves on. If this feels familiar, you are not alone. You may be brilliant in many areas of life and still feel like a beginner when it comes to money. The world is full of people who are wise, kind, and capable, yet carry deep insecurity around this one subject. This insecurity quietly shapes their choices. They keep their money in the simplest place, even if it grows very slowly. They avoid learning tools that could help them, because each new term feels like another reminder of what they do not know. They rely on others to make important decisions, and then worry that they might be taken advantage of. Rule 3 is not about turning you into a financial expert. It is about giving you enough understanding so that money stops feeling like a dark, locked room. Instead, you begin to see it as a room where you know how to turn on the light. Find the main switches and move with calm and confidence. Think back to the image of your financial life as a room with dim lighting. Up to now, you may have walked through that room by memory. You know roughly where things are, but you do not see the details. Learning the language of money is like slowly increasing the brightness. The furniture is the same, the walls are the same. What changes is your ability to notice what is really there. The first step is to release the shame around not knowing. You were not born. Understanding how interest works, or how to read a statement. No one enters the world already fluent in these things. If your family rarely spoke about money or argued about it when you were young, you may have received more fear than knowledge. If school focused on many other subjects and almost never on practical finance, you did not miss the class. You simply were never offered it. When you see this clearly, you can stop calling yourself bad with money as if it is a permanent flaw. Instead, you can say more accurate words. You can say, I have not learned this yet. You can say, I am willing to become a student now. That small change in language opens the door to growth. The second step is to approach money like you would approach any new language. When you learn a language, you do not start with complex poetry. You start with simple, common words. You listen to how they are used in real situations. You practice speaking them until they feel natural. Money works the same way. There are basic ideas that appear again and again: how money grows over time when it is set aside and allowed to earn more, how the rising cost of living slowly changes what your money can buy, how cash flowing in and out of your life tells a story about your habits and priorities. Each idea has its own set of words. At first, they may sound like noise. Over time, they become familiar symbols you can recognize and use. The third step is to adopt a simple habit of curiosity. Whenever you hear a financial word you do not fully understand, instead of shrinking away, you make a quiet agreement with yourself. You agree that you will look it up in plain language. You will read 2 or 3 explanations until one makes sense. You will write a short note in your own words. You do not need to memorize every detail. You only need to move the word from the category of mystery into the category of something you roughly understand. Imagine how different the next year of your life could be if you did this with a handful of concepts each month. You would not feel like an outsider in conversations about money. You would be able to notice when advice does not fit your situation. You would feel more in control when reading documents instead of signing them with a knot in your stomach. The fourth step is to bring this learning into your own river of money. Think of the flow. Picture from the previous chapter. Income streams are like small rivers joining the main current. Expenses are like channels where the water leaves. Savings and investments are like pools along the way, where water can gather and deepen. When you understand even simple ideas about how these parts relate, you can begin to shape the path of your own river. You may notice that all of your water is rushing straight through your life and out the other side, with nothing held for the future. You may see that your income stream is narrow and fast, while your expense channels are wide and careless. You may realize that you have never created even a small pool where money can rest and grow a little over time. Instead of judging yourself for this, you can simply describe it clearly. Then you can make gentle adjustments, one piece at a time. Perhaps you decide that a small part of every flow into your life will now move into a place where it can stay and support your future self. Perhaps you decide to cut off one leaking channel that is draining you without truly adding value. Perhaps you decide to look for ways to widen your main stream by building on your skills and value as we explored in earlier chapters. The fifth step is to remember that learning about money is not a race. There is no finish line where you suddenly know everything. Even people who work with money for a living continue to learn throughout their careers. For you, the aim is not perfection. The aim is progress. If you understand a little more this month than you did last month, you are moving in the right direction. If a concept that once scared you now feels normal, you are moving in the right direction. If you ask one better question before making a decision, you are moving in the right direction. Your micro-action from this chapter can be very small and very powerful. Choose one financial term that makes you feel confused or nervous. It could be a word you have heard many times but never fully grasped. Look for simple explanations and read until you feel a basic understanding forming. Then write a short sentence in your own words about what it means and how it shows up in your life. Next, choose one part of your own money river to observe with fresh eyes over the coming week. It might be the way money comes into your life. It might be a specific area where it consistently flows out. It might be a place where you already allow a little to gather for the future. Pay attention without judgment. Ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? When you do this, you are no longer hiding from your financial life. You are stepping into it as an active participant. In the next chapter, we will turn to a pattern that often appears when people start learning about money. They discover the idea of saving, but get stuck in a mindset of cutting and shrinking instead of growing. We will explore how to escape the trap of constant restriction and move toward a healthier way of increasing your financial strength. For now, let this truth sink in. Money is not a secret code from another world. It is a human language that you are fully capable of learning. Each new word you understand is like another light turning on in the room of your financial life. And with every light, you switch on the path to a calmer, more empowered future becomes a little easier to see. Chapter 6. Rule 4. Escaping the constant discount mindset. When saving becomes a cage. Instead of a safety net, there is a certain thrill that comes from finding a bargain. You walk into a store and your eyes are drawn almost automatically to the signs that promise a lower price. You move past the items at full cost and head straight to the back where the sale racks sit waiting. You run your hands over each piece thinking this is smart. This is what a responsible person does. You leave with a bag full of things and a small glow of victory in your chest. You saved money. You did the right thing. At least that is what you tell yourself. But later when you get home and unpack your bag, something feels off. You realize that you did not actually buy what you truly wanted. You bought what was cheapest. Some items do not fit as well as you hoped. Some do not match your real taste. They end up sitting in a drawer or hanging at the back of a closet, rarely used. You saved in the moment, but you did not add much real value to your life. This pattern does not only live in clothing stores. It can show up in almost every area of money. Always choosing the least expensive option, even when it does not last. Saying yes to things you do not really need, because the discount feels too good to ignore. Delaying important changes in your life because you are looking for the lowest possible cost, rather than the best possible fit. At the heart of this pattern is a belief that the main way to become secure is to shrink yourself. Shrink your desires, shrink your spending, shrink your world. This is the constant discount mindset. It is rooted in fear. It is the fear that there will never truly be enough. So you prepare for scarcity by making your life as small and as controlled as you can. On the surface, this can look wise. People may even praise you for being careful and frugal. You might be known as the person who always finds the deal, the person who never wastes a cent. But deep down, you might feel another truth. You are tired. You are tired of always calculating and cutting. You are tired of feeling guilty anytime you consider quality over price. You are tired of living in a world where your main identity around money is I spend less than other people. Rule 4 begins by honoring the part of you that has been trying to keep you safe. The part that scans price tags and worries about tomorrow. That part has been working hard for many years. It deserves compassion, not contempt. At the same time, this rule invites you to see that there is a limit to what cutting can do. You can reduce and reduce until there is almost nothing left to cut. Beyond that point, additional restriction does not create more freedom. It simply creates a smaller life. To move beyond this cage, you need a new way to decide what deserves your money. Not based only on how low the price is, but based on how much real value something brings into your life. Value can mean many things. It can mean good quality that lasts longer, so you do not have to replace it again and again. It can mean alignment with your health, your growth, or your peace of mind. It can mean something that supports your ability to earn more or live with less stress. When you choose value, you are asking a different question. You are no longer asking, how little can I spend? You are asking, what choice will serve my future self, as well as my present self? Imagine standing in front of two options. One is cheap and easy, but you already know it will not last. The other costs more yet is well made and truly fits your needs. The discount mindset will push you toward the cheaper one automatically. A value-based mindset will pause and consider the whole picture. How long will each option last? How often will I use it? Will it make my daily life smoother or more complicated? Will I feel at peace with this choice weeks and months from now? This does not mean you should always choose the higher price. Sometimes the simple option is enough. Sometimes the extra cost is only for show. The shift is not in the number. The shift is in the process. You are learning to ask whether the money you spend is building a life that feels honest and supportive. For many people, this is a new habit, and it can cause discomfort at first. You might feel guilty the first time you choose the item that is not the lowest price but clearly serves you better. You might hear old voices in your head calling you wasteful or selfish. You might worry that others will think you have changed. In these moments, it is important to remember why you are doing this work. You are not trying to become reckless. You are learning to honor your real needs instead of constantly settling for the minimum you can get away with. This is an act of respect for your own life. There is another hidden cost to constant discount thinking. It can make you suspicious of anything that looks like growth. If a program, a tool, or an experience does not come with a heavy reduction, you may assume it is not for you. You tell yourself that people like you only buy things when they are on special offer. Over time, this belief can quietly lock you out of opportunities that could have changed your path. You might miss out on learning experiences that would have expanded your skills and income. You might delay important decisions about your health or your home because you are chasing a lower figure instead of a better outcome. The goal of this chapter is not to shame careful spending. It is to show you that a life built only on cutting and chasing discounts rarely leads to true strength. Real financial strength comes from a combination of wise spending and growing income. Cutting can help in the short term, but it can never replace the power of creating more value and bringing more in. Your small action for this chapter is to observe yourself with kindness. Over the next few days, notice when you are drawn to the cheapest option by habit. When it happens, pause for a moment and ask, am I choosing this because it truly serves me, or simply because it feels safer to spend less? You do not have to change every decision yet. Simply begin to see the pattern clearly. Then choose one small area of your life where you are ready to shift from automatic discount thinking to value-based thinking. It could be a personal item you use every day. It could be something related to your workspace. It could be a learning resource that would genuinely help you grow. Make one conscious choice that honors value over fear. Notice how it feels. In the next chapter, we will continue with Rule 4 and move from the idea of cutting to the idea of creating. We will talk about becoming your own personal revenue engine and focusing the majority of your energy on increasing what flows in rather than endlessly shrinking what flows out. For now, hold on to this simple insight. Saving without intention can become a cage. Spending with wisdom and respect for your future self can become one of the foundations of a stronger financial life. Chapter 7. Rule 4. Becoming your own revenue engine. Turning effort into growing income. In the earlier chapters, we have been slowly loosening the grip of scarcity. You have begun to question the idea that money is a fixed pie. You have started to see that constant cutting and discount chasing cannot be your only strategy. Now it is time to step onto a different side of the equation. Instead of asking only how do I spend less, you begin to ask a stronger question. How do I earn more in a healthy, honest way? For many people, this question feels almost forbidden. They have been told that wanting more income is selfish. They worry that if they focus on earning, they will become greedy or lose their values. So they keep their head down and try to do a good job and hope that somehow money will notice and reward them. Hope is not a strategy. Rule 4, in its second part, invites you to see yourself as something you may have never considered before. A personal revenue engine. This does not mean you must start a large business or become someone you are not. It means recognizing that you are more than an employee code or a title. You are a creator of value, and value is what money responds to. Imagine for a moment that you are a small but powerful company. Your mind, your skills, and your character are your main assets. Your time is your energy source. The way you communicate your ideas is your marketing. The way you ask for opportunities and present your work is your sales process. You might never have used these words about your own life before, yet they are already true. If you go to work and solve problems each day, you are delivering a service. If you care for others in a way that frees them to do their own work, you are part of a larger machine that generates income. If you create art or content or support online, you are building something that has value to someone else. The question is not whether you already play a role in the flow of money. You do. The question is how conscious and intentional you are about that role. Many people move through their days reacting to tasks that appear in front of them. They do what is asked, and no more. They wait for the company or the market to decide what they are worth. Becoming your own revenue engine asks you to turn that pattern around. Instead of waiting to be assigned value, you actively look for ways to increase the value you bring. You ask yourself different kinds of questions. What problems do I solve better than most people around me? How can I deepen that strength so that it becomes something rare and clearly useful? Who benefits the most from what I can do? And how can I reach them more effectively? At first, these questions may feel big and heavy. You do not need to answer them all at once. You can start with one small habit that changes the tone of your entire day. Each morning before you are pulled into messages and noise, ask yourself one clear question. What is one action I can take today that has the potential to increase my income in an honest way? This action might be connected to your current job. It might be something you build outside of it. It might be a step that will not pay off immediately, but clearly moves you toward higher value work. It could look like taking extra time to solve a difficult problem in a way that becomes a model for your team. It could look like learning a small new skill that allows you to handle more complex tasks. It could look like reaching out to someone who could use your services and beginning a genuine conversation. It could look like planning a simple product or offer based on questions people already ask you. The point is not that every action will turn into money tomorrow. The point is that you shift your identity from someone who only preserves money to someone who creates opportunity. Over time, these daily actions accumulate. You become more skilled, more visible, and more confident in the value you provide. When a promotion or new role appears, you are ready. When you decide to raise your rates or change your field, you have a foundation to stand on. A strong revenue engine is built on 3 inner pillars. The first pillar is self-respect. You begin to believe that your time and energy matter. You stop underpricing yourself in every area of life. You stop saying yes to everything simply because you feel grateful to be asked. You start to evaluate where your effort truly belongs. The second pillar is courage. Earning more often requires stepping into discomfort. You might need to ask for a different level of pay. You might need to say out loud what you can do instead of hiding behind modesty. You might need to test a new idea, knowing that it could fail before it succeeds. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to act while fear is present. The third pillar is patience. A revenue engine takes time to build. There will be days when your efforts seem invisible. There will be weeks where nothing moves, and you wonder if any of this matters. In those moments, it is tempting to give up and return to purely defensive strategies. But remember, defensive strategies alone never built a strong financial life. They only slowed down the decline. Your job is to keep planting seeds. Some will grow slowly below the surface before you ever see a result. As you work on these inner pillars, it is also important to recognize that not every source of income fits your values or your health. Becoming a revenue engine does not mean saying yes to any opportunity that appears. Some paths may offer more money, but demand that you sacrifice your integrity or your well-being. Those paths are not for you. The aim is alignment. You want your income to come from work that you can respect. Work that may be hard, yet does not require you to abandon yourself. Over time, you will start to notice patterns. You will see which activities lead to more trust, more referrals, and more growth. You will learn which efforts drain you without leading anywhere. You can then gently shift your focus away from the empty paths and toward the ones that build real momentum. Your small action from this chapter is to create a simple practice for the next 7 mornings. Each morning, write one sentence beginning with these words. Today, my money-making action is, then fill in the rest with something realistic and specific. It does not need to be dramatic. It just needs to be intentional. At the end of each day, look back and ask, did I follow through? If not, do I understand why? If yes, how did it feel? By the end of a single week, you will already start to see yourself differently. You will no longer feel like a passive object in the stream of money. You will have proof that you can act as a creator, a contributor, and a builder. In the next chapter, we will take this growing sense of agency and aim it at a clear target. We will move from vague wishes about being richer to defining the actual numbers behind the life you want to live. Once you know what you are aiming for, your revenue engine will have a direction, not just movement. For now, hold on to this thought. You are not only someone who cuts and saves, you are capable of generating new value. Every day that you act from that truth, you are quietly rewriting the story of your financial life. Chapter 8. Rule 5. Defining the numbers of your ideal life, turning a vague dream into a clear financial target. For most of your life, you may have carried a floating picture of a better future, a calmer home, less pressure at the end of the month, space to help the people you love without fear, time to rest without guilt. If someone asked you whether you want to be richer, you would probably say yes. But if they asked how much richer or what that actually means in your real daily life, you might feel your mind go blank. Wanting more money without defining what that means is like standing in front of a train station with no destination in mind. You feel the noise, you feel the movement, but you do not know which train to board. Rule 5 invites you to do something that can feel uncomfortable at first. It asks you to put real words around your ideal life, not to impress anyone, not to chase status, but to give your effort a clear direction. Think again about the room that represents your financial world. Up to now, you have been turning on the lights and seeing the furniture for what it is. Now we are going to bring in a new piece. A clear picture on the wall that shows the kind of life you are aiming for. Not as fantasy, but as a map. Start with this simple idea. Your ideal life is not built from random luxury items. It is built from a series of honest choices about how you want to live, where you want your energy to go. What truly matters to you in this stage of your life? To make this concrete, we will walk through a gentle thought exercise. Imagine that you are sitting at a table with a blank sheet of paper in front of you. At the top, you write these words: my ideal normal. Month, not a dream vacation. Month, not a winning the lottery month. A normal month in a life that feels right-sized for you. In your mind, begin to list the main areas of that month. A place to live that feels safe and suits your family. Food that supports your health and enjoyment. Transportation that is reliable and not a constant source of worry. Basic utilities and services that keep life running smoothly. Health care and emotional care. Learning and personal growth. Moments of rest and small pleasures. Support for people you care about. Space for giving in whatever way fits your heart. For each area, ask yourself, what would this look like if it felt honest and good? Not bare survival, not extravagant excess, just solid and aligned. Then there is a second question. What would this cost in the real world? This is the part that many people avoid. They are afraid that the total will be too high, or that they will feel foolish for wanting what they want. But remember, numbers are not moral judgments. They are simply information. If you prefer, you can treat this like a private game of research. You might look up the usual rent or mortgage payments in the kind of neighborhood that feels right. You might estimate what it would cost to buy groceries that match the way you want to eat. You might check the typical price of maintaining a car that is safe and dependable. You might think about a realistic budget for clothing over a year, broken down into monthly portions. You might add in what it would take for small, regular moments that bring you joy. There is no need for perfection. Close enough is enough for now. What matters is that the cloud of longing begins to take shape as real numbers written in plain language. When you add these parts together, you will arrive at a monthly amount and a yearly amount that can support this version of your life. For some people, this total will be a relief. They discover that their ideal life costs less than their fear imagined. For others, the total will be confronting. They realize that the life they truly want is far beyond their current income. In both cases, you gain something precious. You gain clarity. Without clarity, your effort has no target. You either overwork without knowing why or underreach, because everything feels impossible. With clarity, you can face the truth of where you stand. The next step is to compare your ideal life income with your present reality. You may already know roughly how much you bring in each month. If not, this is the time to find out. Look at your income with the same gentle honesty you used for your ideal life. Write a simple sentence such as, right now. My average take-home income each month is, then place that sentence next to your ideal life number. The space between them is your gap. Many people feel shame when they see that gap. They think it means that they have failed or that they are behind everyone else. I invite you to see it differently. The gap is not a verdict, it is a map. It shows you how much space there is for growth. If the distance is small, it might mean that a few focused changes could bring your ideal life within reach sooner than you expected. If the distance is large, it might mean that you will need several stages of growth and that your ideal life will emerge gradually over time. Either way, the gap gives your revenue engine something to aim at. Instead of vaguely wishing for more income, you can begin to ask precise questions. What would need to change for my monthly income to move closer to this target? What skills would I need to sharpen? What kind of work would I need to step into? What habits would I need to build or release? You are not expected to have all the answers right away. The power lies in asking a better question than you have asked before. There is another layer to this process. As you look at your ideal life numbers, you might notice areas where your desire is shaped more by comparison than by genuine need. You might realize that a certain expense is there only because you have absorbed someone else's picture of success. You are free to adjust. Your ideal life does not have to look like an advertisement. It can be simpler, calmer, more focused on time and relationships than on objects. In fact, many people find that when they strip away borrowed desires, the amount of money needed for a life that feels deeply satisfying becomes more realistic. This is not about lowering your standards to make the math easier. It is about aligning your standards with who you really are. Once you have a first draft of your ideal life number and a clear view of your current income, your small action from this chapter is gentle and specific. Write down 3 statements. The first statement names where you are now. For example, today, my financial life can comfortably support this level of living. Then you describe that level in simple words. The second statement names where you want to go. For example, in the future, I want my financial life to support this other level of living. Then you describe that level briefly. The third statement names the bridge. For example, to cross the space between these two, I will need to grow in these areas. Then list a few possibilities, even if they feel uncertain. You are not signing a contract, you are opening a path. In the next chapter, we will talk about how to keep your motivation alive when the gap feels wide. We will explore how to make your future feel real and close, so that these numbers are not just marks on a page, but living targets that matter to your heart. For now, sit with this idea: your financial life does not have to drift without direction. You are allowed to choose a destination. You are allowed to know your number, and once you know it, you are allowed to build steadily toward it with clear eyes and a steady heart. Chapter 9. Making your future feel real and close. Walking into the life you want before it fully arrives. There is a strange thing that happens in the mind when you think about your ideal life. If it feels too far away, it becomes almost like a movie you watch instead of a reality you build. You look at pictures on screens or in your imagination, and your body quietly whispers, "That is for other people, not for someone like me." Even if you have now written down the numbers of your ideal life, there may still be a heavy distance between the world you can see around you and the life you wrote on paper. The gap is not just financial, it is emotional. It is the distance between what your mind knows might be possible and what your heart believes is allowed for you. This chapter is about gently shrinking that distance, not by pretending you already have everything you want, not by acting as if money does not matter, but by bringing pieces of your future closer to your senses in a grounded, honest way. Think again about the room that represents your financial life. In earlier chapters, we opened the curtains and let in more light. We walked around the room and named what we saw. Now we are going to open a door in that room. Outside that door is another room that represents your future life. For a long time, you may have stood in your current room and looked at that future room through a tiny keyhole. From that angle, all you could see were a few shiny details, a car here, a trip there, a moment of ease. Because the view was so limited, your mind filled the rest with fantasy and fear. What would happen if instead of peeking through a keyhole, you were allowed to briefly step into that other room? Not to steal anything, not to lie to yourself, just to feel what it is like to stand there for a moment as a guest. This is the heart of making your future feel real and close. It means giving your senses a preview of the life you are building so that your mind stops treating it as a fairy tale. When your senses have never experienced something, your mind often labels it as impossible. Imagine someone who has never seen the ocean. They might understand it with their mind if you show them a map or a picture. But the first time they stand on a shore and feel the wind and hear the waves and smell the salt, something changes. The ocean is no longer a concept. It is real. In the same way, your future life becomes more believable when you allow yourself to stand near pieces of it. You might visit a neighborhood that matches the kind of environment you want to live in. You do not have to announce anything to anyone. You can simply walk the streets, notice the trees, the sound of traffic, the way people move. You might step into a store that sells items at a quality level you hope to afford one day. You do not need to buy. You can quietly look, touch, feel, try on if that feels comfortable. You might attend an open event in a space that reflects the kind of community you want to be part of. You let your nervous system experience what that world is like. The point here is not to pretend that you already own these things or belong fully to these places. It is to let your body realize that they exist in the same reality as you. They are not behind a magical wall. They are simply part of the wider world. When you do this, something powerful begins to shift under the surface. The goals you wrote down stop feeling like wild dreams and start feeling like destinations. Your mind starts to ask a new kind of question. Not, is this even possible? But what would have to change in me and in my actions over time for this to become part of my normal life? That is a very different question. One is paralyzing, the other is activating. There is an important warning here. This practice is not about chasing status or feeding envy. If you walk into these spaces with a heart full of comparison, you may leave feeling worse than before. So before you step into your future room as a visitor, take a quiet moment and set your intention. You can say to yourself, I am not here to prove anything. I am not here to measure my worth. I am here to let my mind and body see that this kind of life exists, and that with time it might also hold a place for me. Then you move through the experience with curiosity rather than hunger. You pay attention to small details. How does the air feel? What rhythms do you notice? What parts of this world actually touch your heart, and which parts leave you cold? You may be surprised to find that some things you thought you wanted do not matter to you when you are close to them. You may also discover desires that are quieter yet more meaningful. Perhaps you thought you cared most about objects, yet when you visit a calm, bright home, you realize that what you really want is peace and order. Perhaps you believed you needed a certain kind of car, Yet when you test, drive a reliable vehicle, what touches you is the feeling of safety and freedom. These discoveries help refine your picture of an ideal life that is truly yours, not borrowed from someone else. Another part of making your future feel real is changing how you speak to yourself in small, everyday moments. When you catch yourself saying, "I could never afford that," you might add the word "yet," not as a magic spell, but as a reminder that your current state is not frozen. When you walk by a place that feels beyond your reach, you might quietly think, "If I keep learning and acting, there may come a day when this is normal for me." You are not making promises you cannot keep. You are simply refusing to close the door on yourself before reality has a chance to change. There is also value in bringing the essence of your future life into your present in small, symbolic ways. If your ideal life includes more calm mornings, you might create a tiny version of that now. Perhaps you wake a few minutes earlier to drink your coffee in silence instead of rushing. If your ideal life includes a tidy, loving home, you might choose one small corner to care for today, even if the rest still feels chaotic. If your ideal life includes generosity, you might begin with one simple act that fits your current means. These small gestures send a message to your mind. We are not waiting for everything to be perfect before we live in alignment with our values. We are starting now with what we have. Your micro action for this chapter has 2 parts. First, choose one aspect of your ideal life that feels distant: housing, work environment, daily rhythm, community. Then find a way to physically step closer to it in the coming days. Visit a place, attend an event, walk a street. Test something with your senses in a way that is respectful and within your current means. Second, choose one tiny habit that represents the spirit of that future life and bring it into your current week. It should be small enough that you can repeat it, yet meaningful enough that it makes your day feel different. Notice how your inner world responds. You may feel resistance at first. You may hear thoughts that say, "Who do you think you are?" Let them pass like clouds. You are not claiming that everything has changed. You are practicing belonging to a new story. In the next chapter, we will bring all of this together. We will talk about becoming the kind of person that a healthy, wealthy life can trust, not only in numbers and actions, but in character and identity. For now, remember this. Your future is not just an idea on paper. It is a place you can start to visit with your senses, your choices, and your courage. Every honest visit makes it a little less distant and makes you a little more ready to move there when the time comes. Chapter 10. Becoming the kind of person wealth can trust. There is a hard truth that almost no one says out loud. If your mindset stays the same, your money story will circle back to the same place again and again. You can learn new tricks and try new methods. You can switch jobs or start projects. But if the person at the center remains ruled by the same old fears and beliefs, the river of money will keep finding its old, familiar path. This is not said to scare you. It is said to honor how powerful you actually are. You are not just someone standing beside the river of money hoping it flows your way. You are the one shaping the riverbed through every choice you make about who you are becoming. You have walked through many rooms in this book. You opened the dim room of survival and admitted how tired you were of living on the edge. You stepped into a new way of seeing money, not as a single pie, but as a flow that moves toward value. You walked through the small workshop of one-to-one effort and began to imagine building systems that reach further than your own 2 hands. You sat with the fear of investing in yourself and learned to turn that fear into thoughtful commitment. You slowly turned on the lights in the room of financial knowledge and realized you are capable of learning this language. You stepped out of the cage of pure discount thinking and began to choose value with more respect for your future self. You started to claim your place as a personal revenue engine instead of a passive passenger. You dared to write down the numbers of a life that feels right for you. You cracked open the door to your future room and took a few honest steps inside as a guest. Now, we come to the core question: who do you need to be for money to feel safe in your hands? Money itself is not wise or unwise. It does not bless or punish. It simply follows patterns of value and decisions. When money moves into the life of someone who is not ready, it can easily amplify chaos and pain. When it moves into the life of someone who is grounded and growing, it can amplify peace and impact. Becoming a person that wealth can trust is not about being perfect. It is about building certain qualities one day at a time, so that as more resources flow through your life, they are more likely to create good than harm. One of those qualities is honesty. Not only honesty with others, but honesty with yourself. This means telling yourself the truth about where your money actually goes. It means admitting when a purchase is about soothing and emotion rather than serving a real need. It means facing the gap between your current income and your ideal life without spinning stories to make it look better or worse than it is. Honesty is the foundation that keeps the room of your financial life from collapsing. Another quality is responsibility. Responsibility is not the same as blame. Blame says, "This is all my fault," and sinks under the weight. Responsibility says, "I cannot change the past, but I am in charge of my next step." It is the quiet decision to own your choices, your learning, and your growth. Responsibility shows up when you decide to understand a contract before signing it instead of hoping for the best. It shows up when you act on the small daily money actions you planned instead of letting the day carry you away. It shows up when you admit a mistake early and learn from it, rather than hiding it until it grows into a crisis. Another quality is resilience. On this path, there will be setbacks. A plan might fall apart. An unexpected bill might arrive. A project you hoped would pay off might fail. Without resilience, these moments can pull you back into the old story that says nothing ever really changes. With resilience, you still feel the sting, but you also hear another voice inside that says, "This hurts, and I can learn from it." This is a bend in the river, not the end of it. Resilience is built by remembering how many storms you have already survived, and by choosing not to abandon yourself when the next one appears. There is also the quality of generosity. This does not mean giving beyond your means or ignoring your own needs. It means refusing to let fear turn you into a closed fist. Even when resources are modest, you can practice a spirit of open-handedness, a kind word, a small act of help, a portion set aside for causes you believe in. Generosity reminds you that money is meant to move. It keeps your heart from shrinking around every coin. When wealth flows into a generous life, it tends to find many paths to do good. Finally, there is the quality of humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself accurately. You know that you can grow and learn. You also know that you will never know everything. Humility keeps you open to advice from trusted voices. It allows you to admit when you are out of your depth and need guidance. It helps you stay grounded if more money begins to flow in, so that you do not forget who you are or where you came from. These qualities may sound like a long list, but they already live inside you in some form. You have been honest at times when it was hard. You have taken responsibility in seasons where others ran away. You have been resilient in ways you rarely give yourself credit for. You have been generous when no one was watching. You have been humble enough to keep reading and listening, even when this topic made you uncomfortable. Becoming a person that wealth can trust is less about adding something completely new and more about strengthening these parts of you and bringing them consistently into your relationship with money. This is also where the warning and the hope meet. If you ignore this inner work and chase only numbers, you may still manage to increase your income for a while. But without character, money can slip through your fingers. You can recreate the same fear and scarcity at a higher level of income. Old patterns can grow larger shadows. On the other hand, when you focus only on inner growth and never take real financial action, you may feel wise yet remain stuck. The invitation of this final chapter is to hold both together: outer action and inner formation. Strategy and character, numbers and values you have learned about river flow and workshops and future rooms. Now you become the person who walks through those spaces with clear eyes and a steady heart. Your micro action here is simple and serious. Choose one quality from this chapter that you know you need to grow in right now. Honesty, responsibility, resilience, generosity, humility. Write one short promise to yourself that begins with these words. From today, I will then finish the sentence with a specific behavior that expresses that quality in your money life. Perhaps it is checking your accounts once a week with kindness instead of fear. Perhaps it is setting aside a small amount for the future every time money comes in. Perhaps it is asking for help before you make a major decision. Keep that sentence where you will see it. Read it out loud often. Let it become a thread that weaves through your days. As you do this, remember that there is no finish line where you are finally perfect with money and never make another mistake. There is only the next honest step and the next. You are not the same person who began this journey. You have opened doors, faced shadows, named desires, and allowed yourself to imagine a different story. Wealth in itself will not save you or complete you. But as you become someone who thinks and acts with integrity, courage, and care, it can become a powerful partner. A partner that supports your aims, values, protects your household, expands your ability to serve, and gives you room to breathe. Take a slow breath right now. Feel the ground under your feet. You are not behind. You are right on time for the person you are becoming. And as you keep walking this path, one thoughtful step after another, you are giving your future self a gift that no one else can give. A life where money is no longer a constant enemy, but a trusted companion on the road you have chosen, with open eyes and a brave heart. When you reach this point, you have done more than listen to ideas. You have walked through the dim room of survival and opened the curtains to let in light. You have stepped back from the edge of constant fear and begun to see money as a flow that responds to value. You have started to treat your effort as something that can be multiplied rather than spent down to nothing. You have spoken more kindly to yourself about learning the language of money, and you have allowed yourself to imagine a future that fits who you really are. If you truly live these shifts, your outcome will not only be a higher balance in an account. Your outcome will be a calmer nervous system when you think about bills and plans. Your outcome will be the quiet pride of knowing that you can create income in honest ways instead of waiting to be rescued. Your outcome will be more room to breathe in your month and more space to care for the people you love without the old knot of shame and panic. This is not a promise of perfection. It is an invitation to a different relationship with money, a relationship based on clarity, courage, and steady action. Here is your call to action. Choose one rule from this journey that spoke the loudest to you and commit to practicing it for the next season of your life. Write down one small action you will take in the next day, and one small action you will repeat each week. If this message has helped you share it with someone who needs hope and honesty around money, leave a comment or a note wherever you found this and tell me which part opened your eyes the most. Let that be your public promise to your future self. Then close your eyes for a moment, take a slow breath, and say, softly, I am allowed to change my money story. Now step back into your day as the person who has already begun that change.